Are you going to be just kind of with